Chehan Tamu, welcome to Dulcimerica. My name is Futch, and I've got a brand new baby. This is Buttercup. She's a folkcraft instrument, and we're having a lot of fun getting to know each other. I've got one side diatonic, not purely, and I got the other side chromatic, purely. Loving the chromatic over here. But this isn't purely diatonic because I've got a 6.5 fret and a 1.5 fret. A lot of people have different ideas about why the 6.5 fret is among dulcimer players, but the one story I've heard the most often is it was Howie Mitchell that said, you know, we've got this wonderful instrument, we're playing all this great music, and we love DAD tuning because it's symmetrical and you can carry melodies across the strings and all kinds of stuff, but DAD means Mixolydian tuning, which means you've got a flat 7th note in the major scale, which sounds like this. C natural instead of C sharp. To play the major scale, we would need that additional half step right there, and that is why we've got a 6.5 fret, basically, so we can play the major scale, or the Ionian mode, while tuned in DAD, which for a mountain dulcimer was supposed to mean specifically playing with a flat 7th note. So that was a gateway half fret, half step right there. Then came the 1.5 fret, and you know, for a long time I just couldn't see why people wanted to put that down there. And every time I tried to play one, it was just in the way. You know, you got another thing to come hopping over and to consider. But the 1.5 fret is good for a lot of really neat stuff. What's it good for? Well, first of all, it's good for these two notes. One note we have not had before, and one note we did have before, but now we have lower. That note is C, right there on the middle string, which we also have at the 6th fret on the bass string and the melody string. So if we want to play a C major chord, which is C as the root, E as the 3rd, and G as the 5th, we have our C, we have our G, we have our E. So it'd be like a 3, 1.5, 1 gives us a nice rich low C chord, as well as reversing that 1, 1.5, 3. So if you're playing Old Joe Clark and you always have to hop up to the 6th fret or do a 3, 4, 6 chord to make your C chord, you've got this. Which works, but it's a lot easier to go like this. And I think it sounds a lot better too. So it's kind of cool having that C chord down there. Also, we've got two notes or one note in two places that we didn't have before, and that is F. We now have an F note at the bass string, 1.5, and on the melody string, 1.5. Combined all together, if you take F and C and A and an L shape, we now have an F major chord. That's kind of cool. Why is that kind of cool? Because now if you want to do songs that are a 1-4-5 chord progression, you can do them in the key of C without having to retune. For example, a 1-4-5 chord progression built on the 1st, the 4th, and the 5th notes of the D major scale for dulcimer players would be D, D, E, F sharp, G, and then D, E, F sharp, G, A. So D, G, and A are the 1, the 4, and the 5 chord when in the key of D. So you've heard songs that just go like from D to G to the 4, back to D, then to the A, the 5. La da dee dum ba dum bum, da da dum ba da dum ba da dum. Now you can do the exact same thing in the key of C. Now take a look at what this is based on the scale degrees once again. So starting with C is our root, of course. C, C, D, E, F. That new chord we just got is the 4. C, D, E, F, G. The G is the 5, which means C, F, and G are the 1, the 4, and the 5. Well, we've got a C right here. Then F is the 4, back to C, then to G. Ba-da-dum, ba-dum, 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 ba-da-dum, bum, bum, bum. Now, I don't know. I don't care who you are. If you're male or female, sometimes the key of D is a little difficult to negotiate for the old vocal cords. But if you take that down a step to C, many of those tunes that you did in the key of D with the 1-4-5 progression can now be done a step lower and consequently a lot easier on the throat. Another very neat thing. with the addition of the 1.5 fret. What else have we got here? My goodness, we can now play major and minor versions of the same chord in this area. For example, like a 2, 3, 4 chord would be a D major. 2, 3, 4, that's D, that's the root. We've got F sharp, which is our third, and A, which is our fifth. Take the third down a half step, make it a flat third, and you got a minor chord. So take the F sharp, make it an F, which we now have, and now we have a D minor chord from D major. Lower the third, make it a minor third or a flat third, and there you have a D minor chord. Kind of cool. Same thing with an A major chord, 1, 2, 4 chord. And these chords can all be reversed, of course, for a richer tone. A, C sharp, and E are the root, the third, and the fifth. We have our A. Right there on the melody string we have our C sharp. On the middle string we have our E on the bass string. Look right below where that C sharp is. That's our third, our major third. Take it down a half step to a minor third, and now we play C natural instead. And you have a nice, wonderful A minor down there from A major to A minor. We could play a G scale, down here. We could play a G scale across the strings previously by starting at the 3rd fret and going up like this. And then we can now play a G major scale starting at the 3rd fret and then utilizing everything below, not everything, but utilizing what's below the 3rd fret like this. Melodies are based out of these scales, and so if you're playing a G chord, you want to play notes out of the G major scale. Now you can do that without ever going above the 3rd fret, which is super, super cool, and have all your notes there. What else do we have? We've got some 7 chords that we didn't have before, or at least that we didn't have before easily. For example, we've got a D7 chord. A 7 chord is where you take a major chord, the root, the 3rd, and the 5th, and on top of that you put a major 7th note. A minor 7th. It's kind of tricky. It's called a dominant 7th. You want to take the minor 7th and add that on top. So what would be the 7th note of the D major scale? For example, we've got D as the root, F sharp as the 3rd, and A as the 5th. We will want to add the 7th note of the scale and then take it down a half step. So D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp is the 7th note of the scale, the major 7th. Take it down a half step. You make that C sharp a C natural. So what we're doing here is instead of playing a 0-0-2 chord, which would be a D major chord, we would simply add in, right here, at the 1.5 fret middle string, that C, and that gives us a very, very pretty D7 chord. What's that good for? Things like Amazing Grace. 7 chords are beautiful little additional flourishes of color that make it kind of fun, and it makes arranging a lot more interesting. Now we've also got a G7 chord by going down here. I'm playing 0, 1, 1.5 chord. G, B, D, F would be a G7 chord, and we've just got added our F in there. So those are a couple of additional little things we've got. Now you've got a 7 chord for your root, for your 4, and for your 5. And then for your A7, we've always had that 1, 2, 3 chord.